We have an amazing panel that I'd now like to invite to the stage. First of all, our new Minister of Health, Riina Sikkut. Secondly, Shamik Parek from UK Octopus Ventures. And thirdly, Christina Cohen, a health tech investor from the Nordics. So first of all, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us on this panel. To kick things off, I'd like to give you just a short time to introduce yourselves and your background.
I'm Riina Sikkut, health policy analyst by training, but in politics for 5 years and currently the Minister of Health.
Yes, Shamik Parek, I'm a health tech investor at Octopus Ventures. We're a very active UK-European fund investing in early seed to Series A businesses with minimum ticket sizes of £1 to £10 million.
My name is Christina Cohen. I have worked most of my career in digital health on the operational side, amongst others with Kry Livi, the Swedish digital health company, where I led our international expansion, launched Germany, and worked as VP operations. And I've also seen the other side of the table. Over the past year, I've worked with Picos Capital as a partner in the Nordics, investing, amongst other things, also in health, digital health.
Thank you. So to kick things off, since we are at the startup conference, and we talk a lot about global success stories and moonshots and unicorns, in many ways, Estonia has been quite successful in creating a startup ecosystem. By different metrics, most unicorns per capita and so on. But for some reason, none of those unicorns have been from healthcare. So, Riina, as maybe a little bit of an intriguing question, what might we do differently to have more unicorns in healthcare space in the future?
There is definitely a certain element of luck or chance as well. But as we heard, the 3 cases already, we have potential, and that the health needs and the problems in different health systems, they are pretty much universal. If it works in Estonia, if it works for the patient, and you can fit it into the system, convince all the healthcare workers that digital is not the way to achieve effectiveness, but digital can be part of treatment, then I think anything is possible.
Yeah, absolutely. If you think about all the challenges facing healthcare systems, not only in Estonia, but also, for example, in UK, a shortage of specialists and doctors and other staff, explosive rise in chronic lifestyle-related disease, financing issues. Most of the healthcare systems in the world are battling these major challenges. So, Shamik, what do you think, how can technology help to bridge those care gaps and maybe solve some of these challenges?
Yeah, as you rightly say, there's a lot of issues, both I guess across the UK and in most healthcare systems, which is either a lack of funding or a shortage in staff, right? And I think the digital health landscape can really unlock those problems and challenges. So whether it's addressing efficiency gains within hospitals and healthcare systems, or whether it's providing better care and reducing the bottleneck for patients as they go through their care journey, all of that has the ability to reduce the burden of healthcare systems, but then also the ability to provide very good high-level care in any environment, whether it's at home or in hospitals.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Christina, you have an interesting background both as an operator in a major European telehealth or digital health platform, and now also as an investor. So when you think about the new technologies and the new health tech startups coming to market, what are the main challenges for these young companies in Europe?
Yeah. So there's a number of quite obvious challenges in healthcare because you have the regulation, you have high complexity in terms of complying with local regulations, which are different across Europe. What I often think, one thing that it comes down to when you want to build and scale a health company in Europe is a core challenge in healthcare is that very often the party receiving the service is not the party paying for the service. And that creates a more complex situation, and that multiplies if you want to expand that internationally, because the rules for how these are reimbursed is actually different in each country. So why is that? So on the one hand side, you often have a patient, and you need to solve a current pain point for the patient in order for them to use your solution. But at the same time, you also need to convince a payer, which is often an insurance or a public healthcare system, that today it makes sense to reimburse and pay for the service. And ideally, in the long run, those are aligned, because in the long run, a healthier population is better and also economically more beneficial, if you want. However, in the short term, it's not always that clear. For example, let's take an app for back pain. If a lot of people use it, you may avoid a number of sick days in companies. You may even avoid certain surgeries. But the pricing of that service and what is that actually worth is super tricky. And thus, if you're building in healthcare, it's crucial to really figure out a solution and a setup that caters to those needs and to all these parties. And that makes it tricky. And as said, the rules for how that works are different in every country, so you need to think international from the start if you want to scale that across Europe.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, last year, the new medical device regulation came into force that sort of starts to standardize the requirements for these new digital therapeutic solutions. But do you think it's even possible to have a fully standardized approach across different European countries?
I don't think there is one solution that fits all European countries. If you want to grow internationally, the approach I would always take is to have your home market, have that as a test bed, but then very early on, clearly try and understand what other healthcare systems, what other markets in Europe have similar characteristics. And it's not, most in cases, it's not the neighboring country. When we're starting to grow internationally out of Sweden, we're actually traveling through all of Europe. We spoke to a lot of people in the different healthcare systems to understand where, at the time, 2017, it was even legal to offer a consultation remotely, and that was not the case in all countries.
Right, exactly. So, Rina, we know the challenges facing different healthcare systems, and obviously it's the same in Estonia as well. Clearly, one of the goals that you're probably working hard on is to find additional financing to keep the system working. But at the same time, we know that healthcare systems also carry a lot of waste or inefficiencies. So how do you see the role of technology in actually reducing those inefficiencies and maybe helping save cost?
Actually, I would even build on that and say that one of the reasons that digital therapeutics is in a role that they currently are is that we view digital in terms of efficiency. Let's go paperless. Let's enable the data use between different service providers. But in order to improve the work of traditional healthcare worker, But I feel that digital therapeutics, they want to shift the way work is done. What is treatment? What is the role of patient? It is a mind shift. And if we can do the mind shift step by step in the healthcare system, then the next moonshot will come. But I would build on what Christina said, that actually we see in the traditional world of pharmaceuticals that a month ago, European Commission published the pharma package, and I don't remember any European initiative receiving such cheers in Estonia, because for the first time, European market has seen as a single market.
Yes.
So there are not 27 different markets to enter that have different regulations and requirements for pharmaceutical providers. And for digital therapeutics, it should be the same. And there are two sides. That, yes, if you get market access, you can access 27 markets. It reduces the bureaucracy or administrative burden, but at the same time, the other side of the coin, as you said, it's very difficult to price the service or prove that what will change, what are the benefits for the patient. You need real life data, you need it early on, you need evidence. And as for pharmaceuticals, now the evidence is gathered in real time all over Europe, and all reimbursement agencies can use it. And the same should apply for digital therapeutics, that you don't have to work with Estonian data or Swedish data, but that the evidence is there and it can be pooled and used for reimbursement in all EU member states.
Yeah.
All right. Shamik, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, no, I think completely agree with what's been said. I think it also, I guess, it in terms of building out and scaling out, I guess, digital therapeutics, particularly is one, that clinical evidence, but then two, that collaborative approach, right? So when you scale into new markets and new countries, there's often cultural issues or language barriers. And I think setting the scene from building out strong efficacy and getting strong efficacy results, and then working and collaborating to then build out technologies that can easily scale into new markets. And that's whether it's including new languages, trying to understand like the payers and who actually buys the products, and just having that clear view of how best to build that in from day one as you're building a company.
Okay. But building on that, clearly a more sort of, let's say, international collaborative approach is needed. But do you think Estonia still has something unique or special for creating an ecosystem for these types of companies to flourish?
Yes, I might not be objective, but I think yes. But even if you have the secure digital identification or infrastructure in place, all primary care provider connected to the electronic health record, you might not see the importance beforehand, but eventually it will all work. 100% of digital prescriptions, you can just start prescribing digital therapeutics as well. So you don't need an additional investment or something extra in the system. You can just accommodate the innovation in the current system.
Exactly. Christina, how do you feel, having worked in the Nordics, in Germany as well, and then across EU, what could Estonia learn from these bigger markets in terms of, creating faster access to market for these solutions and then building this ecosystem?
Yeah, you're probably also referring to the German DiGA initiative, which is the possibility to actually register digital applications, which has been I would say, a rare moment where German health policy was really entrepreneurial, and they really dared to put something in place that was new and that nobody else had done at that scale before. And I think we do have a few learnings also from that work, that as the system is has been up and running for a couple of years now. And I think one aspect is what I said about pricing. Create a simple system around pricing. It might be a bit too simple or simplistic in the beginning, but rather start with something simple, but give the companies building some kind of assurance on the pricing. Then another aspect I find actually crucial is don't see digital therapeutics in isolation. It's always a part of a care journey. So the way it's set up in Germany, it says it's only the digital interaction that counts, but what you would actually like to do is to actually supplement pharmaceuticals and traditional clinical interactions with digital tools and therapeutics. So think about how you can actually integrate the digital therapeutic into classical pharmaceuticals interactions with clinicians. So those are some learnings that we're seeing already now, where I would probably modify the approach. Otherwise, I think just making a move and allowing these digital therapeutics to thrive and to grow is crucial. One point that's easily forgotten by the ones building the applications, again, you have many stakeholders. So then you have somebody who's paying, you may have patients who really want to use the therapeutic, but when and why should the doctor prescribe it? You need to think about the individual who sits there. When and why do they have an incentive or a reason to prescribe a digital therapeutic at a given point in time? And I think that if you solve that as a builder of such a therapeutic, that can really unlock growth as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So what Christina was referring to, obviously, is the German digital health application registry called DiGA. They currently have over 40 of these digital therapeutic applications that German family doctors can prescribe to their patients across the country.
Maybe adding one thing to that, to the prerequisites that Estonia has.
Yep.
Side note, in Germany, that prescription is a piece of paper, right? So you have a very different foundation here in terms of what can be done.
So you can prescribe a digital therapeutics on paper?
Yes. But some insurance companies allow you to upload a photo of it.
Yeah. But I would actually like to add that one of the trends that would enable the use of or support the use of digital, or making the decision by the, for example, primary care physician to prescribe is moving from fee for service reimbursement to outcome based.
Yeah,
so
that helps.
You might motivate that if you prescribe digital therapeutics, you get a specific coefficient of reimbursement or something like this. But at the same time, if you just value the fact that, for example, the cardiac patient, James, Mr. James, is kept away from hospital for a year, if you pay based on that, this could pay based on health, not on action or sickness, then many doctors might find that digital therapeutics is something comfortable for them, for the patient, and deliver the outcome.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what's most exciting about digital therapeutics for me is actually the promise of totally new business models and operating models within healthcare that we haven't really maybe seen or practiced yet. But then moving on from there, maybe switching gears a little bit to the sort of business side as well. One of the largest VC funds in the world, Andreessen Horowitz, famously has predicted that the largest company in the world will be a consumer health tech company in a recent article. So, Shamik, obviously, you're one of the largest VC funds in Europe, investing a lot in healthcare as well. How do you see this DTX or digital therapeutics space play out from an investor's perspective?
Yeah, so I think from an investor's perspective, it's very much looking at the broader trends, right? So I think one, we're moving to more value-based care. So to your point earlier on, which is looking at outcomes and making sure that payers, providers, and patients are aligned. But then two, and probably more importantly, it's looking at how do you build this broader ecosystem. And if you look at the digital therapeutic market today, it's probably worth around $5 billion. $5 billion, but by 2030, by Andreessen's predictions, we're expecting that market to grow to $32 billion. And again, that requires a whole infrastructure and whole system change, but it also means that there's a unique opportunity for early stage and, I guess, digital therapeutic businesses to really grow into that. So what we're seeing is a large number of startups being built and developed, but also a lot more VCs and private equity investors moving into the space as well. So I think with that, and again, focused on clinical outcomes and clinical validation, will just help build that even stronger.
Yeah, so basically that's what we mean by digital transformation in healthcare.
Yes.
It's massive growth in those new digital technologies that are coming online.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But it's a small point for patient that the criticism, I think, in most health system, politicians, patients don't have enough choice. If you go to a store, you have a choice of different products. But in healthcare, why can't you choose between hospitals or doctors? The choice is somewhat limited. But with digital therapeutics, this is something that patient can choose. With different migration, managing apps, or you can choose whatever works best for you. Somewhat very like this soft hand and motivation. Some want competition with the guy next door. Someone, whatever works to motivate people behave in a healthy way. And the triggers are different and the healthcare system can never offer that wide selection, but international markets enable you even to choose the background color in your app. And these small issues can actually affect outcomes, whether we like it or not. That feeling that patient gets that he or she is in control, can make decisions, can share the data, can decide on different types of behavior and so on.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. That the real value in those digital solutions is the ability to personalize, to individualize, customize the treatment to a specific person that was never really available in the traditional system, right?
Yeah.
So in a way, if you think about a traditional, pharmacy, you go into, there's lots and lots of different medication on the shelves. Some of them treat the same indication. It's going to be maybe the same way for digital therapeutics. Although, of course, all of them have to be evidence-based and clinically validated, but still, there will be a selection of different solutions that you can choose, right?
Yeah, and I think it comes down to individual choice, but then also what works for the patient, right? And I think it's very much we're moving towards that hyper-personalization within healthcare. And I guess from a VC and business perspective, it's very much when you look at traditional care models, we try to make it as personalized as possible, but that's not scalable, right? Because there's either doctor shortages or budgetary constraints. So if we are able to provide that very personalized care, it one, educates and empowers the patients a lot more, but then two, provides some relief to the healthcare systems as well.
Yeah. Christina, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that personalized health aspect is the other side. You have choice on the one side, and then on the other hand, as therapeutics, also pharmaceuticals become more personalized. It's choice, but then it's also that each patient, depending on their starting position, on their situation, they get the care they need, starting from the drugs they get, the kind of application they can use, the kind of treatment, and you can customize with digital tools these patient journeys so much better than what you can do in today's system, where you have to have a standard path, you have to run your operations efficiently, and you often don't know before a patient comes in what actually is that patient's problem. So how much time do you accommodate for them? So I think there's also a lot you can also do in the infrastructure of how do you actually operate healthcare, how do you operate clinics, how do you operate hospitals. The more you know about the patient, the more personalized you can be, but then also it becomes more efficient. And that's back to the earlier discussion, how do we actually achieve an affordable healthcare provision as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. There's probably a lot of investors and entrepreneurs here in the room. It would be very interesting to hear, Shamik, from your perspective as a VC, what role does venture capital actually play in catalyzing and accelerating these digital therapeutic companies? And what is some of the most important things that you look for in a company when you start to talk to them?
Yeah, so I think one, VC has the ability to empower and build ecosystems, but it's up to the founders and the entrepreneurs to actually do it, right? I think we can only support them as much as we can, but it's very much what can actually unlock their capabilities to then provide better services for patients. So I think whilst it's really up to the entrepreneurs and to the founders, I think VC has the responsibility of, one, investing responsibly, but then two, investing in businesses and ideas that and founders that really want to have a huge societal impact. And I think to your question as to what founders can do, I think one, it's actually build a product that solves a problem. I think that's the biggest thing within healthcare. And then two, of course, there's being clinically backed and having clinical evidence and clinical validation. But I think more importantly is working with other stakeholders as well. So again, coming back to your point, so working with traditional pharma companies and therapeutic businesses, but then also working with research institutions, organizations, universities, hospitals, etc. And then not losing focus on who's actually using the product, and that typically is patients. So paying a lot of attention to user interface, user experience, making sure that you're actually collecting feedback from your user groups and various user groups. So whether it's direct to consumer or whether you're B2B2C, it's very much understanding who's buying and who's using your product, and then making sure that you are well equipped to essentially tailor it and personalize it as much as possible as you grow and scale. And I think that will hopefully, in addition to obviously being clinically backed and validated, will set you in good stead.
Yeah. Christina, as an investor, what do you look for in a DTX company?
So one thing I find crucial is that a lot of the things we now talked about are taking time to build in healthcare. You have the clinical studies, you need to prove that the efficacy, you need to show you have patient safety. Potentially you have to be under the medical device regulation, which takes time to get. So what I would also focus on is to build the solution in a way that it solves today's pain points and challenges. So you actually, once you have all the infrastructure and the things you need to do and the foundation, that actually, when people can use the product, there is an acute pain point for all stakeholders in the equation to actually use it and apply it and help you grow and scale it. That's one aspect. And then I think especially if you want to become a European healthcare company of whatever sort, for me it's crucial that founders think from day one also in an international mindset, which means try and understand early on what bigger countries, other countries have similarities, try things out, start putting with low resources, but start understanding other markets as well quite early on. And for example, with Kri, we started launching our first international market when we're just starting to see first traction in Sweden. So if you really want to grow a big company, that I think is crucial.
All right. As we're coming to the end of our session, one of the things that the Estonian digital therapeutics companies, the first wave of companies building these solutions, wanted to do is not to just talk about a moonshot, but actually do something about it. So one of the initiatives that we launched last year is called DTX Estonia, the Alliance of Estonian Digital Therapeutic Manufacturers. And the idea for that organization is to bring together those young companies and support each other, also in discussion with all the different stakeholders. So we are very much open to all the young entrepreneurs who would like to start building these solutions. There's actually a development program going on right now together with Startup Estonia to bring in world-class experts to talk about these issues. But to wrap things up, maybe a suggestion from each of you to Estonian health tech companies who are thinking about or are about to enter this very fascinating field. What should they keep in mind, and how can they be part of this success story?
I would suggest don't give up, even though if it feels that the public sector is too slow or doesn't see the potential, we will eventually get there.
That's a promise.
Yeah.
All right, Shamik?
I think it takes a village to build something big. So I think that's just a way of saying, be collaborative, be open to change. But then also, I think, especially in young ecosystems, people are willing to help. So just leverage that as much as possible.
Thank you. Christina?
I would say cherish the digital foundation and infrastructure you have here in Estonia. It's an amazing starting advantage, but don't underestimate the number of fax machines in the NHS and in German healthcare and the amount of things that still happen paper-based and in a very old-school way in other countries.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, from the entrepreneur and startup side and from DTX Estonia's perspective, we definitely will take it on as a mission to have 10 times more Estonian DTX companies in the next year's Latitude59. So until then, keep grinding, and thank you very much for joining us. And thank you to the panel.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear panelists. One more time, guys, round of applause.
Thank you.